Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Baton Rouge Gallery. Welcome to our virtual first Wednesday for our October exhibition. We're thrilled to have you with us. My name is Jason Andreessen, the President and CEO for the Gallery. It is a pleasure to have you. We've got a great show ahead all this month, and to have a great show to share with you tonight. All three artists who are featured this month at the Gallery will join us on the feed, tell you a little bit about the techniques and the process and the inspirations behind the works that are on display through October 28th here at the Gallery. As always, we are free and open to the public every single day except for Mondays from noon to 6, so please come by and join us here inside our home in Breck City Park. A few words before we hand things over to our featured artists, who I should mention are Rosemary Goodell, Haejung Lee, and making his very first exhibition, or marking his first exhibition at Baton Rouge Gallery, Justin Tyler Bryant, one of our newest artist members who we are very excited about. But before we do that, I want to say a quick word of thanks, as we normally do, to all of our members, all of our donors. Obviously, without support from the community, Baton Rouge Gallery is not possible, nor are the exhibitions, the programming, all the things that Baton Rouge Gallery does. They are simply not possible without support from our members and from our donors. So thank you to everyone who has supported the Gallery and continues to do so. We greatly appreciate it. If you are not already a member, you can certainly go to batonrougegallery.org/join and become one in about a minute and a half at most. There are monthly memberships, annual memberships, whichever way you choose to support the Gallery, it is always appreciated. So with that, I want to bring up Francesca Vega, our development director, with some other membership-related stuff for you.
Thanks, Jason. So throughout the year, we have drawings for our members for various things. This month, it's face masks by Brian Kelly. And just wanted to announce that the winners are Carrie Curtin and Elizabeth Neely. Thank you both for being members. Thank you for everyone. Thank you to everyone who is a member. And if you want to be entered into our drawings throughout the year, all you have to do is become a member.
Yes, thank you. A few words about some upcoming things at the Gallery that we want to put on your radar if they aren't already. First of all, we have an upcoming, many of you know the Gallery is an artist co-op. It is made up of artist members, artists who are not only part of our community, but part of the Gallery as members. And we do an annual open call where artists, anyone over the age of 18, has the ability to apply and have their work and have their eligibility for exhibition time at the Gallery considered. That deadline is coming up on October 13th. If you are an artist and interested in finding out more about that, you can go to batonrougegallery.org/apply. It is an incredibly simple process, intentionally so, and feel free to reach out to us at the Gallery if you have any questions about it. Upcoming events that we want to put on your radar next up in the Movies and Music on the Lawn series. On October 23rd, we will be having a great presentation with the silent film Dr. Jekyll and Mr Hyde, with an original score composed and performed by Palomino Darling, Baton Rouge's own. So please join us for Movies and Music on the 23rd. And big news, event that we're really excited about coming up on November 19th is Kinetics, the area's premier virtual art auction. We've got some incredible works to share with you. As is always the case, works at Kinetics always start, or the bidding always opens at $100 and goes up from there, regardless of the size or the artist behind the piece. We've got some incredible works coming your way as part of Kinetics. So please mark your calendars. Friday, November 19th, Kinetics, presented by Hancock Whitney. Thank you again to our title sponsor again this year. But it will be a great night, a streamlined event, an auction that is easy to partake in and easy to get involved in, and hopefully add to your own art collection for either your home or your office. So please mark your calendars. Get ready for a great night of art for art. So with that, thank you again for being with us for our virtual first Wednesday. We're going to turn things over to our first artist of the evening, Rosemary Goodell. If you would, please, I'm going to assume that you're already clapping, but ladies and gentlemen, Rosemary Goodell.
Well, thank you. And first I want to say thank you to Jason and Kelsey and John and Francesca and the patrons here for supporting art in Baton Rouge, because it's really important to the artists to have a place to exhibit. So this is just a wonderful place to be. My name is, like Jason said, my name is Rosemary Goodell, and I've been an artist member here for a long time. And the kind of work that I do is called a monoprint or a monotype. And what I have here tonight is a series of monotypes. And the title of my series is Improvisation. And I have to go way, way back to talk a little bit about this. When I was growing up, my mother had given me something called color forms. It was like a black plastic thing with these shapes that you could put in different places. And I just loved it. And then when I discovered the art of monoprinting, it was just like a solid, just a line from my most earliest experience of visual art to now. So what I'm going to talk about with these monotypes is the way that I make them. And the title of this show is called Improvisation. My work is an improvisation. I don't come at it with a planned drawing or a way to make something. It's purely intuitive. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the way I make the work. These prints are made using a plexiglass plate. And each print was printed 3 different times. I start with a system called a Paul Klee system. I paint the plate with black ink. I put the plate on top and I draw across it. So the first thing I do is I have basic lines. The next thing, I clean the plate off and I flip it over and I roll the plate with gold ink. It doesn't look like gold. It looks kind of brown, but it actually is gold ink. And I put these shapes on without any color. So I don't know if you can see, there's sort of a white area here. So it makes sort of a shadow on the plate. The last print is where I take each of these shapes and create colors. These are colors that I have mixed using different colors together so that I get the color that I want. What I have here is 3 monoprints, and they are an improvisation about the California desert. I'm from California, and these improvisations are my feelings about the desert. You can see there's this sort of sand color here, and then very simple shapes, the plants in the desert like succulents, and they have sort of a dusty green color. The sky, very dark blue, and then the bright sun. Over here, this one is titled, What Goes Up Must Come Down, and again, we have the California fruits, the water that comes from it, and the different types of maybe far away. This represents mountains to me, and over here also you see this. These are the mountains that are around the desert. Then here, this is the last one, and of course the sun as it moves across the sky, the dark blue of the sky, and the simple shapes of the leaves. These are all feelings that I have about the desert, improvisations about ideas of what it's like to be in the desert. The next series that I have are actually more abstract. They're not referential to a place, but they're referential. They're impressions of feelings I have. So this one is titled, Don't Turn Away. And what I'm doing is I'm repeating these shapes over and over again, just like I explained with the color form. I take the shape, but each one has its own special color. This one is titled Stacks. Again, the same, you see a repetition of certain shapes, a repetition of certain colors. This one is titled Separation. And again, it's made the same way with the background and there's maybe somebody turning away or the feeling of separation when things are separated. This last one, I forgot to mention that one of the important influences that I have is music. I come from a family of musicians, and I listen to music all the time. I listen to many kinds of music. This title is Buffalo Soldier. And again, this was a piece that was just put together. And when I looked at that, I thought, oh, that reminds me of that famous song by Bob Marley, The Buffalo Soldier. So I titled this Buffalo Soldier. It's a visual impression of a popular song. This is a wall, and I'm glad I mentioned the music, because a lot of these prints refer to music. I love to listen to music while I'm in the studio. And I love to listen to all kinds of music. It's not just jazz. I listen to, old Dixieland, all different kinds of music. So each one of these, a lot of these pieces refer to music. This one up here is titled Take 5. I don't know if my generation, the Dave Brubeck Quartet, his first song was Take 5. This one down here is called Smooth Jazz. We have a station here, WBRH, that's always talking about smooth jazz. Over here, we have, this one is titled Speakers and Headphones. So many of us listen to music with speakers and with headphones. So this refers to things, parts about music. This one is Night Jazz. And there's another one up here. Let me see. This is the hot spot, hot jazz, dizzy. Over here, this is, I did smooth jazz. These black and white ones are the first image of these that later on become these. So this was the first image, and this one was, these black-white ones refer to something that's more of a location. This one is night and day. This is cityscape. That's another cityscape. This is called Around Town. Oh, and this one up here, this is called Superdome. I had fun doing that because, again, these pieces of this one is called At the Hairdresser. Because these pieces are purely intuitive, often when I look at the finished piece, I go, oh, that reminds me of the hairdresser. These, when I was working on these are more specific, like this one, Cool Jazz. You see the horn in these. And, oh, this is sort of interesting. Here, this one is called Bent. When I was working on a lot of these, it was in the dead of summer. So I couldn't help but think about air conditioning. This is the Bent from an air conditioner. I really enjoyed making these. Again, I love to create these works of art just using color and lines and shapes.
We have a Facebook comment question. Jonathan, could you put that back up so I can read it to Rosemary? It says, can you explain more about the focus on the natural environment in your former improvisational series versus the constructed material focus we see here?
The natural environment, you mean like the pieces of the desert, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
So these where you're referring to a specific place and feeling versus starting the composition and then letting it speak to you.
Okay. Like if you listen to music a lot, you will hear music that has to do with love, and then you hear music, the Deep Purple, when the Deep Purple falls over sleepy garden walls, well, that's referring to a specific place. And that connection with music and with art is the same way I work. Sometimes I'm thinking about a place like the desert, and then sometimes the feeling that I have has to do with just an abstract feeling, like love, or an abstract feeling about a sound, like hot jazz or hearing jazz at night. So I think you can encompass both a physical place, like maybe looking down at a city, like around town, or you can encompass a purely mental place in art. And so I go back and forth with these because of the way I work.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
We have two more over here real quick.
Right. Quickly, we'll go through these. These refer go to a visit, I went to Bolivia and one year, and when I was in Bolivia, they have this giant festival celebration called the Poder. And it's the people from the areas come down into the city, and each city has its own it has a band, and they wear costumes, and it's very colorful. So this one, when I looked at this, it just reminded me of the feeling I had when I was in Bolivia, and this reminded me of the feeling of Poder. It's a lot of noise, people are playing horns and like that. So it's a really fun festival. So anyway, I hope you all will have time to come and look at the art.
Rosemary, before we start to look at Haejung Lee's works, can you dive a little deeper for anyone who's not familiar? Can you dive a little deeper into what a monoprint is?
Okay.
And then also, I know that over your career, you've worked with other media. What is it about the monoprint that you love so much?
Okay, well, the monoprint, I was kind of working at the edges, and I'll just go back to the basics. My house and studio flooded in 2015, and I didn't have a place to work. So I turned to monoprinting because I could use a press in other locations, whereas I didn't have my studio was no longer available to me. And since then, I've just done monoprinting because I lost my studio. But the difference is that a monotype is a plate that is printed only once, whereas a monoprint is printed, the same image is printed more than once. And so that's a little bit of a difference. A monoprint is a print that is one of a kind. Usually when you talk about prints, you have an addition, like etchings, like Rembrandt's etching, he will make 20 of his etchings of one picture, he will reproduce it 20 times. Because of the way that monoprinting is made on a plate, you only have one image, and that's why it's called a monoprint. There's only one print of these. There will never be another one. It's only a one-time print. So that's a little bit of a difference. It's done on a press using a plate, but it doesn't use a metal plate or a stone. A stone uses a lithograph, or etching uses a metal plate, or a silk screen. This is not that way. This is just done purely on a plastic plate, a plexiglass plate. Of course, you could use glass too, but plexiglass is better. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yes, I think so.
Great. Well, thank you.
All right.
so much
Thank you,
for your
Rosemary.
time. We appreciate it.
Sure.
All right.
Make our way through and bring Haejung Lee into the feed tonight.
So while she's getting loaded here, we'll start over here at the beginning.
Hi.
Well, Haejung, we might be.
Oh,
there we
here we go. Sorry about the delay.
I'm
All right.
ready.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for having me today. And my name is Haejung Lee. I'm ceramic artist. And I'm talking about my work that I'm presenting at the Baton Rouge Gallery. So I'll just explain, not individually, but I'm just talking about whole entire work, based on why I create this work.
So Haejung,
my-
would you like me to pan across the gallery as you're talking, or stop on one?
I think you can move around.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So my previous work are mostly in big installation and didn't use a lot of colors. And I used to create my work based on my personal interest and experience in current situations. And I have several big transit in my life, such as coming to America, getting married, and becoming a mom. One of the biggest change in my life was becoming a mom. Actually, I have never thought about being a mom until my late 30s. And since I had my son, Hayden, or my concern and interest changes a lot. I really enjoyed being with him, and we become we always talk together and drew and ate and played together all the time. So my current interest is my boy and being a good mom for him. And basically for this work, I use his drawing because he's really artistically talented and creative with his hands. And he drew these drawings presented at the gallery when he was 3 years old in 2019. And when I look at Haydn's drawings, they are simple but have details, and he used color combinations so well. And I realized his drawing style keep changing and will not be the same as when they're toddlers. I, as an artist, probably have some stereotypes about describing objects in certain ways. However, his drawings, and mostly toddlers' drawings, are pure and have expressed the object without any boundaries. So as a mom, I wanted to present his drawings to others and thought about collaboration his drawings with my work. So since I decided to use his drawings to my work, I wanted to break my stereotypes and to follow what he thinks. They may not be realistic, but they are characteristic. I, I really enjoyed the process of creating these pieces and made me to think about my future work. For the title, I use Korean word. No one understands probably, but I use it kind of having secret because in Korea we give the baby nicknames when the moms find out they are pregnant. When I was pregnant, I called Hayden as Namu, which means tree, because I wanted him to grow well and healthy and become a valuable person, as what tree does, such as root down in a place to grow well and branches out to create shade and to produce fruit. So I wanted to call this exhibition Namu, which represents Hayden and what he has done. Each piece are called 열매. It means fruit. They are produced from tree. Therefore, I present in this exhibition my 나무 creates 열매, and all of them are that I have created. Thank you.
These are wonderful. So, Haejung, it's not in this show, but on our website, on your artist page, it shows that you've worked with some of these sketches of Hayden's before on different surfaces in ceramics, like some cups and a platter.
Uh,
So, how did you decide to go with this more three-dimensional form for this show versus a like a usable ceramics?
for usable ceramics, I really keep want to do something with him. So whenever I work in my studio, I let him play with clay. Then I thought about I really like his drawings, so I wanted to combine with that. So kind of cups, like the functional pieces, kind of I decided to make it because for fun and also to let him use what he made and then to present to kind of give to somebody else. So from that point, I made the functional work. But this kind of sculptural piece that I'm presenting at the gallery is kind of I'm mimicking what he drew, but also it can be just it's not useful, but it can be like pictorially he can see it. So the functional piece, even though he drew on the cups and he made some part, but he's not really seeing that his drawing. So I want to show him, hey, I do this way, and then you can present your work and my work together. And I can see he really kind of satisfied what he has done, and then he's proud of me doing that way.
Yeah, having them in the three-dimensional form kind of really makes them come to life for him, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We have a comment on the Facebook, if you wouldn't mind. It's a technical question. They would like to know how the color is applied before or after firing.
I use I use the kind of the colors before firing because I didn't use any glaze for this piece. So I just use the color before firing, and then these pieces are just once firing. Once I reach the higher temperature, then usually ceramics goes bisque firing, which is lower temperature, and then glazing, and then the second firing, higher temperature. But this one I did just once firing, which goes to higher temperature. So I apply the color before I firing.
So you're able to get all this color right here on one fire. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Hey, Jing, I had a question for you. After you finished installing the works, Hayden came and saw them hung. I think you took some pictures of him posing with them. I'm wondering, what do you think that experience was like for him to see them up on the wall and lit? And what was it like for you to have that experience of seeing him be able to experience the show and really be the first person to experience the show?
I don't know. Just first of all, it's whenever I see he's so happy, that makes me happy. So before I showing him all this work, present on the wall, I bring him to the gallery when it's empty. So he saw the wall is empty, and then he left, and then I let him come back whenever I'm done. And once he come in the gallery, he said, "Wow." And he's so excited taking picture or in each piece, having pose. So I think I asked him, "Are you happy that mom did that at the gallery with your drawing?" He said, "Yeah." And then he kind of told me he's proud of me. And then I think what I did for him is actually for me, but inspired from him. I think I give him kind of unforgettable experience as 5 years old. So, I think that's it. I think he's happy.
I was here when he came in after it was all installed, and he was just elated. He was so excited to see these drawings really come alive and to just take the space that they take. It was a really great moment. That's great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to scoot this way and look at Justin Tyler Bryant's work.
We'll bring Justin Tyler Bryant into the feed. And as we mentioned, this is Justin's very first exhibition since being named a BRG artist member last fall. So we're thrilled to have him and his work in the gallery this month. Justin, I understand that I may be having trouble seeing you, but if everybody else can, Justin, feel free to go ahead and let people start learning more about this body of work.
You can hear me, right? Am I coming through clear? Can you hear me? Or is it? I don't know if you can hear me or not. I was muted, but now I don't know if I'm muted or not. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start talking. Okay, sorry, I just realized it was on there. Okay, so first I would really like to thank Jason and Kelsey for helping me install the work. Everybody's been really nice. As a student at LSU, I went to Baton Rouge Gallery a lot, and it's so great to be a member and to show my work there, because I remember how the artist work that was up on the wall and how influential it was with my experience at LSU. And then just a rich history of Baton Rouge Gallery in the community. I'm really excited to have my work there. But first, sorry, is there a question?
No.
Okay. I'm because I'm a little fearful of missing out a few points. I really want to read this short artist statement, and then I'll go a little bit further and talk about that in a little bit more casual way. But that's kind of how I would like to start. So Back to Black reintroduces the color black into my painting palette while also framing a conversation around Black representation as a means in and of itself to make paintings. The ancient technique of fresco is used, along with contemporary imagery, as an idea of observational study that is not regulated by a white gaze. I'm interested in the timeless quality of fresco and the self-satisfying presence of Black representation. The first time I did fresco, all of the paintings I have are fresco paintings. The first time I did fresco was in Maine during a residency I had there in 2017. I don't think I was particularly that good at it, but one of the things that I noticed when I first tried fresco is how much it was similar to watercolor, which is really the primary medium that I work in. But the thing that I think I enjoy about watercolor is the color and the use of paper, but it also can be flat. And I think the thing that really drew me to the idea of fresco is that it's sculptural in a sense. So not only do you have an image, but you're also dealing with very tactile surface, which is basically plaster that you're painting into. So the first time I used it, I was very excited about it, but didn't really get to go too far into it. But recently I got a chance to go back to the same residency and work a little more in fresco. And I still had a love for using fresco or doing fresco painting. And so I thought for my first show at Baton Rouge Gallery that I would try this out. And I thought it was a great opportunity to try this out. So I kept the format pretty similar. Every painting is around the size of 11 by 12. And some of the techniques are a little different. In some I use like a traditional fresco technique, which is you just apply the paint wet on wet. And then some of it I actually added later, which is called a secco technique. I'm still learning it. And I really enjoy the medium and really want to continue doing fresco painting. I can talk a little bit about the actual process. So if you're not too familiar with fresco, if you've seen a picture of the Sistine Chapel, or you might have went to Rome and seen this and been to the Sistine Chapel, those are done in fresco. The Last Supper is also done in fresco, which is painted by Leonardo da Vinci. So I thought that was a really interesting thing to do today, is to use this ancient technique of fresco with the idea of having Black images on it, because fresco will last a lifetime, basically more than a lifetime, thousands of years. We find frescoes from every culture you can think of. And so I thought of the Black images on fresco would ensure that these images would last, in a sense. And so when you do fresco, there's multiple layers. Sometimes if you see the side of the painting, you are able to see the different layers of the fresco painting on there. The first layer is a scratch coat. The second layer is a riccio, which is a really kind of pumice texture, almost sponge-like, but in a hard, spongy consistency, I guess. And then the final one is the Intonico. So you have the riccio and the Intonico. And the Intonico has the most limestone or lime in it. And what the lime does, it gives you kind of a smooth surface to paint on, and it makes it a little bit more like marble in a sense. And typically this would be done on a wall, so it would be actually in the wall. These are panels that you're seeing here, so they're not actually a part of the wall, but each little fresco, you're actually building a small wall. Looks like we got a question.
Go ahead. Yeah, the question, I'd love to know how these pieces relate to your past works. How do you see your own choices to move into fresco? And in what ways, if any, does the subject matter shift with the medium?
Right. That is a great question. Lindsay is a friend of mine. I just want to say hi, Lindsay. So that's a really great question. So before I did a lot of watercolor painting, and I also did a lot of graphite drawing. And the way it relates to those two mediums, the first with watercolor, it's very similar to watercolor in the sense that the pigment is pure pigment. It's almost all, it's almost only just it doesn't have a binder in it. And watercolor is really similar to that. So watercolor usually just has gum arabic and the pigment in it. And the pigments you use for fresco are just they don't have any gum arabic in it, so it's just a pure pigment. So it is similar to that. The only difference is that it's not on paper and it's on a wall. The imagery, I think, is really similar to my previous work. I am trying a few different things out to kind of see, how I would like to work. It's still a little new to me. With this particular painting right here with the mouth, that is something that I have used in the past, which is kind of like the motif of like a smile. And it doesn't really relate to the work and the previous work conceptually in that way, the smile. I'm still interested in teeth and smiles. And I really like kind of how it kind of grabs your attention right away. But as far as with drawings, I do think of, with each painting I make, I do a study in a graphite drawing. And so I'm interested in how the light is actually working in the piece. So I made these really small graphite drawings to kind of figure out the way that the light is working, which is really similar to how a lot of Renaissance painters would make their work, is that they would have these drawings and they were interested in the light. When I start all of these fresco paintings, they do somewhat look like a monochromatic painting and our drawing. So it's pretty much a grisaille or just a one tonal painting. And then I slowly add the color over time. I think that answers your question, Lindsay, but I'm not completely sure if I did answer it. But I think I'm exploring a lot of things from the previous works. So the smile, using watercolor, thinking about the light. As far as the subject matter, it's usually always a portrait. I'm always interested in Black representation, so portraiture. I'm thinking about the lighting in it. Conceptually, the titles are named after, a lot of the titles have like a planet named after planets or some like a cosmos, or I don't know, what would be a better term? Galaxy kind of phrases.
Celestial body.
And so I'm interested in with Black studies, there's a lot of these terms where they talk about cosmology or like the planets. And every time some like James Baldwin mentions the stars or Martin Luther King mentions something about stars, I think it's really fascinating. And I also have an interest in Afrofuturism a little bit, and I like to play with this idea of outer space and what we have to make all these theories and ideas about it, but sometimes we really don't know. And I like that idea placed on the Black image in a sense, and how it actually, we have some information about it, but we still have to do a little bit of work to understand it. And it's always changing, it's always moving. So I kind of like the approach of thinking about planetary things in relation to Black representation, because I think it's a similar kind of conversation when you think about it in a conceptual way.
I have just a side comment. I think it's kind of also an added layer, because we're talking about frescoes, right? In in normal art history class, when you learn about a fresco, you always see them with, deities painted on them. And I think it's also kind of a fun overlap that a lot of deities are named after planets. So you have here a fresco titled Venus with, a portrait on it, and it's got several different, layers of meaning in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm open for the interpretation. I think that's not wrong. The history of fresco, it's so fascinating. I feel like you could spend a lifetime learning about it and actually figuring out different techniques. The deity thing, I think, is really, I like that you interpret it that way. I didn't think of it that way, but that is really interesting.
Justin, can you talk, as we show kind of the full gallery view, can you talk about, I know we talked a lot about lighting and how these pieces were hung in the gallery. We had a visitor earlier today who spoke to the fact that these pieces are relatively small, and yet they seem to, in their words, pack a punch. Can you talk about the decisions you made as far as how the work is hung, how it's lit, those kinds of things?
Wow, that's a really great comment. Pack a punch. I often look at art, how other artists display their work. So I try my best not to only look at images, or artwork as an image. I always like to see it in the space. And so, like I said before, with watercolor, the thing about it is that it tends to be a little flat, and the way people think of the images seem to be more like as an image. And in my opinion, I think sculpture is really great that way because it's a little bit more active. And as a painter, I love painting, but I think sculpture has it down a little bit better because they can actually invoke a little bit more of a presence in the space. And so I knew that it's often assumed that a large painting will grab your attention, but I think if you make something small enough in a space, it also will do the same thing. And so I'm also interested, and so I wanted to make these smaller paintings because they're easier to work in, but also I knew that it would grab your attention in that way because it helps you have more of an intimate experience. So oftentimes I think about the way that you kind of interact with the painting from far away. You need something that interests you, but then when you're up close, you need to also give the viewer something to kind of stay in that space. And so I thought about how it would look from far away, and then you would get up close, and then you would see all these different brush strokes and marks there that would kind of maybe intrigue you. And then I went back and forth between painting the back of the painting and then trying to erase a little bit of the process. But I think the process is really interesting to look at in the end. And so I tried to keep a lot of things in there that would give you some idea that it wasn't a painting or it wasn't a painting that was on paper or on canvas. It was something that was kind of a living thing. And that's kind of what's so exciting about fresco is that the longer these paintings are on the panels, they'll change over time in a sense, because they're starting to crystallize more and more. I think the last one I did was probably like 2 months ago. And so it's still actually changing as you see it on the wall. And I'm so happy you were willing to help me light the space, Jason, because I know it could be really difficult. And Jason had the ladder out there and was willing to try a lot of different lighting situations. I think it's best lit with a little bit of a dim light. And I think you're able to kind of, the color isn't so overly saturated. And so those are some of the things that I wanted with the light being a little dim, but I also didn't want a spotlight on it where you would have those shadows around it. So shout out to Jason for dealing with me talking about the lighting in the space.
You were making it sound like you were way more demanding than you actually were.
Maybe it was because you actually were used to it, but I felt like I was because yeah, no, I think I could be a little. I want to try so many different things, and I feel like you were really open to doing that. So
I mean, that's what the space is supposed to be for. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, Justin, thank you so much. It is a pleasure to have you as part of the gallery. We are really, really looking forward to obviously this month and these works being on display, and hopefully many more exhibitions to come. We are thrilled to have you as an artist member. So looking forward to great things in the future as well.
thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Justin Tyler Bryant. Thank you to Rosemary Goodell. Thank you to Haejung Lee as well. And thank you to all of you. Thank you for joining us for our virtual First Wednesday. We hope you've enjoyed it. Please come by and see this show. It is chock full of great works from 3 incredible artists. The show is up, again, free and open to the public every day except for Monday from noon to 6 through October 28th. So please come by and see this show. And then, again, mark your calendars. Get ready for October 23rd, Movies and Music on the Lawn with Palomino Darling and the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on, again, October 23rd with Palomino Darling performing an original score for the film. And then on November 19th, Kinetics, the area's premier live art auction presented by Hancock Whitney. Please, please, please mark your calendars. We'll have about 35 works up for bid, every single piece starting at $100. So we hope you'll join us then. We'll have more information about all these things coming up. Follow us on social media or check out BatonRougeGallery.org. Until next time, thank you again. Enjoy your night.